any organism, new organism is born by the parental organisms, so they will get the genetic material from the parental cell. Suppose in plants we have the male part, so this is the anther. So anther having the pollen. So pollen is a reproductive cell. And here in the female part we have the ovule. So this is the female reproductive cell. So male reproductive cell, this is female reproductive cell. Suppose this is the flower of the onion. Means, so onion will be having 2n number of chromosomes. Suppose it is having 16 chromosomes as the genetic material. So we have number of cells present in the anther. So anther will be having number of cells, and this ovary also will be having the number of cells. So a cell in this anther or a cell in the ovary, so will be having inside its nucleus 2n number of chromosomes. So 2n means n plus n, results in 2n. So here the total number of chromosomes in an onion plant is 16. Here this anther, so the cell will be having a reduced type of cell division. So that we will call as meiosis. So in meiotic cell division, what happens? So a cell having the 2n number of chromosomes, so it reduces to its half. So it results in 4 cells. So we have discussed this earlier. So when one cell divides, so it results in the formation of the 4 cells. So those 4 cells will be having the reduced amount of the chromosomes. So here we have 16 chromosomes in the parental cell, means so this divides to form 2 cells, so having 8 chromosomes in its nucleus. So again in the next stage these 2 cells will be again dividing to form 4 cells, each having 8 chromosomes. So here this is called reductional cell division. So whatever you are seeing the daughter cells, these are considered as reproductive cells. Here the 16 chromosomes present in the parental cell, so gets reduced to half. So here like this a pollen is formed as well as a ovule is formed. So here pollen will be having 8 chromosomes in its nucleus, and the ovule, that is female reproductive cell, will be having these 8 chromosomes, whereas the parental cell is having 16 chromosomes. So the parental cell present in an anther or ovary, so get reduced to its half to generate the reproductory cells. So when these two get united, so as we have learnt, so in the sexual mode of reproduction, the pollens get transferred to the stigma part, and here pollen, so the nucleus of the pollen unites with the nucleus of the ovule. So here what happens when these two gets united, so 8 chromosomes present in the pollen and 8 chromosomes present in the ovule get united, so again they form the 16 number of chromosomes. So the zygote consisting of this union of the male and female cells again retains its original chromosomal number, and that continues as a next generation. So we can have the new seedling of the plant, so where it continues all the characters of the parental plant. So when we sow the onion seed, so the onion seed will be formed because of the union of the pollen and the ovule, so having half the amount of chromosomes. So when So like this, in animals also similar process takes place. So in animal, suppose if we take the example of human being. Here the reproductive structures, as we have learned, testis as the male reproductive organ and ovary as the female reproductive organ. Here the cells will be there. So a cell in testis or a cell in ovary. Suppose if we take a cell, so that is considered as specialized reproductive cell. So this undergoes meiotic cell division to form two cells. So this is meiotic first division. So here what happens? So in human beings, how many number of chromosomes are there? So there are 46 chromosomes in the human reproductive cell. So here 2n, if I consider 2n number of chromosomes, if that is equal to 46 means n plus n means 23 plus 23. So results in the 46 chromosomes. So here when a reproductive cell undergoes the meiotic cell division, it forms two cells. So each of the cells will be having 23 chromosomes. And in the next stage, in the meiotic second step, so again these two cells form four cells. So this is similar to the meiosis, where the 23 number of chromosomes exactly get transferred to the daughter cells. Here 4 daughter cells are formed, each having 23 chromosomes in it. So what we call these daughter cells? So these are nothing but the gametes. So in case of males, we call it as sperm. Whereas in case of female, we call it as egg. So a cell in the reproductive structure will be having 2n number of chromosomes, that is in human beings. So 46 chromosomes. So due to the meiotic cell division, so there will be number of sperms formed having half the amount of chromosomes in it. Whereas in the females, the ovary having the 46 chromosomal number. So upon meiotic cell division, will be producing an egg every month having half the number of chromosomes. So 23 chromosomes in the sperms and 23 chromosomes in the egg. So when there is a fertilization takes place. So when the female receives the sperms from the males, so that sperm will be fertilizing the egg which is there in the ovary, resulting in the union of those two cells, again retaining the original chromosomal number, that is 46. So whenever a new child is born, so new child will be born as there is a contribution of one set of chromosome from the male and one set of chromosomes from the females. So 23 chromosomes from the father, so get united with 23 chromosomes from the mother, so resulting in a cell consisting of 46 chromosomes. So this zygote, which is resulted due to the union of the sperm and egg. So this gets go on dividing to form zygote, then embryo, then it results in the newborn baby, that is results in giving birth to the young baby. So 23 chromosomes in the sperm unites with the 23 chromosomes of the egg, so resulting in a cell having 46 number of chromosomes. So this is called zygote. So zygote, upon multiplication or continuous cell division, forms the embryo. So embryo results in the future baby. So any new organism born in an animal Heredity is nothing but the transfer of characters from parents to the next generation. See, the children will be having certain characters which are not seen in their parents. So those are called differences. So these differences result due to the variations. So how these variations are caused? See, we have learned that in the reproduction process there is a cell division. So when there is a cell division, here inside the cell, the nucleus containing the genetic material has to replicate itself. So at that time, DNA undergoes replication. The two strands of the DNA get separated, and each strand of DNA synthesizes a complementary set of DNA. So when we look at the structure of DNA, so there will be three types of chemicals formed in that. So one is the sugar group, so this is the phosphate group, and this is the nitrogen bases. So these three chemicals will be arranged in this pattern. So here another phosphate group is there, so another nitrogen base linked to another nitrogen base, so that will be having link to this phosphate group. Similarly, this continues. So these three chemicals will be serially making this pattern to form the DNA. So here I am writing the nitrogen bases. Here the phosphate group and the sugar group, so they will be single type, but here the nitrogenous groups are different types. So there are four types of nitrogenous bases. So adenine, so this may be written like this: adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. Here what is the speciality is, here nitrogen base, since here I will be writing A. So this adenine nitrogen base always pairs with the thymine. So here there is a bond between these two nitrogen bases, that is double bond. So here suppose I take these two nitrogen bases, so here I may write G. So that is guanine always pairs with cytosine. So here you find the three hydrogen bonds. So A always pairs with T and G always pairs with C. So these codes will be continuously forming a code, and this forms a strand of DNA which denotes a character in the organism. Suppose we have a DNA, so a strand of DNA is called gene. See, a part of this DNA called gene determines a character in a living organism. Here the DNA will be having the four nitrogen bases arranged alternatively. So A with T with A, G with C, T with A, then A with T, C with G. So like this, these nitrogen bases will be continuously forming a code which denotes a gene, determines a particular character in the organism. We have thousands of characters in an organism. Suppose in human beings we have hair pattern. So the hairs may be curly or straight. And when we come to the skin color, so skin having different complexions, that is fair nature, then dark nature, then the whitish complexion. Then coming to the eye color, so eyes may be having black color plural. So like this we can list plenty of characters in living organisms. So for each characters, so the DNA will be acting, and a particular part of DNA determines a specific character in the organism. See, when there is a DNA replication, see, a strand of DNA is undergoing replication, that is, it is getting doubled. So at that time, for one nitrogen base, suppose, so ATGC, then TACG. So this, while it is getting replicated, so sometimes what happens, so there may be changes in this DNA synthesis. So nitrogen bases, so synthesized will be having little change. See, instead of A and T, so there may be C and G. So there may be a different pattern of these nitrogen bases getting synthesized when compared to the parental DNA. So earlier it was A and T. Instead of this, so suddenly, accidentally, so there may be synthesis of new or different type of nitrogen bases, so compared to the original DNA. So these sudden changes in the synthesis of the nitrogen bases of the DNA leads to these variations. Suppose this fragment of DNA is coding for one character, that is brown eyes. So if there is a slight change in these nitrogen bases, so it results in the formation of a black eye in the child. Suppose the parent is having brown eyes, so due to the changes in this DNA, because of these nitrogen bases, the child may get the black eyes, brown eyes in the parent. So due to variation, it results in the formation of brown eyes in the child. So this is how the variations are noted in the living organisms. So we learned that a cell has to divide continuously in the case of reproduction. So a cell having the chromosomes in it. So either if it reproduces asexually, it has to transfer the genetic material exactly the same copy to that of the daughter cells. Here is the asexual reproduction. So what happens? So if there is a cell division, so if there is a 2n number of chromosomes, so exact number of chromosomes get copied to the daughter cells. Here in case of bacteria, so what happens? There will be no much variations. So when the DNA is getting replicated and getting transferred to the daughter cells, so there is no much variations seen in asexual reproduction. So that is the 4 nitrogen bases. So when they are made complementary to each other, so there will be less chances of getting the inaccuracies. But there may be certain variations in the asexual reproduction also, but this will not be as fast as more when we compare to that of the sexual reproduction. So these variations will not be as much as the extent of variation in sexual reproduction. So what happens in the sexual reproduction? So in the sexual reproduction, what happens? The 2n number of chromosomes, so get reduced to its half. So we learned that, so there is one DNA. So DNA gets separated. Suppose we have so like these nitrogen bases are arranged in a DNA means, so when they get separated, it forms like this. A new DNA will be synthesized. So where for the adenine, the complementary to it, and thymine is synthesized. So for thymine, complementary to that, so an adenine gets synthesized. Likewise, for cytosine, guanine is synthesized, and for guanine, cytosine is synthesized. So this new strand formed will be complementary to that of the original DNA. Like that, so for this strand, for this nitrogenous base T, A is formed, for A, T is formed, for G, C is formed, for C, guanine is formed. So like this complementary set of DNA is formed. At that time, what happens? Sometimes, so there may be chances that, so when if there is a combination that is T and A, so instead of T and A, some other set of nitrogen bases may be formed in the daughter cell. So instead of TA, CG is the new set of nitrogen bases formed in the daughter cell. So this results in the variations. So this is similar to what we write the grammar in English. Suppose I will say, please say where you are. See how this replication takes place in the living organisms. So the consisting of this DNA. So a slight variation in these in the formation of these nitrogen bases results in a new character. So this can be compared to that of the English grammar. See, I'll say the meaning of this sentence. That is, please say where you are. So if I write one T here, instead of SAY, I include one more alphabet here, T. Please stay where you are. Earlier to that, please say where you are. So if I am adding one more alphabet, it fully changed the meaning of this sentence. Please stay where you are. So like this, if any one nitrogen base in the DNA is changed due to the inaccuracy in the DNA replication, so the complete DNA will be coding for a new character. So this is what a variation. So these variations results in new characters in the living organisms. So which help those organisms to adapt to the varying environmental conditions of the earth. The inheritance of characters from parents to the next generation, so are determined by the laws formulated by Gregor Johann Mendel. So we have to learn, so what were those experiments, dear students? Here in this lesson we are learning about heredity. See, in heredity we learned that the characters are transferred from parents to the next generation. Here the characters are called by another term, that is a trait. See, trait is nothing but a character that we see in an organism. Suppose the pea plant generates or gives rise to white flowers or yellow flowers or red flowers. So like that, the trait of the pea plant is to generate different colored flowers. Like that, it produces the seeds. So seeds may be round shaped or they may be wrinkled. So like that, human beings have curly hair or straight hair. So like that, so all organisms are characterized by different traits. So trait means character. Here the characters are passed on to the next generation. See, what you call that? So we call that phenomena as heredity. So what do you call the study of this inheritance of the characters? So that is called genetics. So genetics is a special branch we study under biology which deals with the heredity and variations. See, the people say that, so heredity is nothing but same characters, similar characters that we find in a child when compared to their parents. And the variations, as we have learned, some of the differences we find in the children when compared to the parents are said to be variations. So genetics is the special branch of biology which deals with the heredity and variations. Here, who is the first person to study about the genetic? So genetics was the branch which was initiated by a famous scientist. So that is Gregor Johann Mendel. Gregor Johann Mendel. Who studied the laws of genetics for the first time. So a person by name Gregor Johann Mendel, he studied the laws of genetics for the first time. So Gregor Johann Mendel, born in the year 1822 and died in the year 1884, was a boy who got his education in a monastery. So after the successful basic education, the monastery sent him to the university to have further study. So there he took science and maths as his favorite subjects. He took science and maths as his subjects. He learned all those subjects very well, but he couldn't get a certificate to teach in those subjects. He returned to the monastery and continued his studies in the science and maths. So we will be fascinated to have the enormous interest in him to study those subjects. See, he did so many experiments. He made several experiments in the plant, that is garden pea plants, and he obtained so many results. So he put all those results in a tabular column and he correlated that experiment to the mathematics. So whatever seeds he obtained in those pea plants, he used to collect those seeds and he used to count those seeds, and he made a tabulation having his mathematics knowledge. So Gregor Johann Mendel could formulate some of the laws of genetics. See, why we have to learn about Gregor Johann Mendel? So he was considered as father of genetics, as he was the pioneer in finding out those laws of genetics. See, we learned that characters are transferred from parents to the next generation, and what are the characters we see in those next generation, in that next generation. So what is the reason for those characters to get transferred? So all these were studied by